Horizon Zero Dawn was one of those gems that came out of the blue and knocked everyone's socks off. Well, it did have some leaks a couple of years prior to its launch, but you would only know that if you were a hardcore gamer and followed the news. Even so, nothing prepared gamers for the huge success it had. People instantly loved it, and Horizon Zero Dawn became a phenomenon in the industry. At the time of launch, it was the best-selling first-party game Sony had ever released. It was made by a studio known for anything but colorful, gorgeous open-world third-person action-adventure role-playing games. It's named Guerrilla Games, and the studio is best recognized for the Killzone series that always tried to be the Halo of PlayStation, a series which I love to be honest, but unfortunately for Guerrilla, it didn't pan out that way. So after making quite a few iterations of the dark, gritty, colorless first-person shooter since 2004 until 2011, and on more than a few consoles and even generations of consoles, Guerrilla Games came out with a more vibrant version of Killzone in 2013 on the PS4. Now, I really enjoyed Shadowfall with the new shiny graphics and the more streamlined gameplay compared to the heavier one in previous games, but alas, as impressive as it was for me, it still hadn't become the Halo for the PlayStation. Now, they loved the Killzone series because it was all they made for more than a decade when you factor in development time, but in order to avoid fatigue among the troops, they did a 180. That project later became Horizon Zero Dawn. It won the hearts of gamers from all around the known world, and now they're hard at work at their second game. But because this one just released on PC and I always wanted to say my piece about the title, I thought I'd grab the opportunity and go with it. So this is why I love Horizon Zero Dawn. What impressed me a lot about the start of the game is that they pulled out all the stops with this scene. I mean, they're showing us the entire roster of robot animals straight from the get-go, and with the music and the amazing graphics, I was completely awestruck even now on my second playthrough. I love that the developers thought of creating our first contact like this because it's meant to hook us right away and to make us fall in love with the game instantly. At least that's what happened in my case. Then it goes even further by trying to make us feel empathy towards the main character.
Speak her name!
Aloy!
As a quick side note, Aloy is a horrendous name for anyone. I mean, it's wrongly spelled after alloy, Jesus, but pay no mind to me. Anyway, this character was brand new to us, and that's why the developers decided that we should get to know her from infancy. And, you know, babies are cute. Unless you're this kind of person.
You know, they say all babies are cute, but whoever they are should be stuck in a stroller and pushed into traffic.
But all kidding aside, I'll get back to the psychology behind it in a minute. Later on, we see Aloy a bit grown up, shunned by society because she's an outcast.
Come with me.
And what's sadder than a kid going through this?
She's an outcast, to be shunned. There.
That entire moment was manufactured so that you as a player would feel sorry for her and thus be emotionally invested in the character. Especially because you just saw her as a baby with an endearing father figure just a couple of minutes before. The word innocence quickly comes to mind. A bit later in the cave, I was looking at her and I noticed something.
Wait a minute. He kinda looks like a baby.
Then I realized it was because she had a slightly bigger head in comparison to her body. This effect occurs mainly due to her hair, which is not long, but long enough to appear to augment the size of her noggin. Now, what other creature do you know that has a big head and a small body? Exactly.
A baby.
Now, I've seen the entire House series for like 5 times, and I think you'd agree with me when I say that it gives me the right to state medical and psychological facts. From what I know, humans are naturally drawn to cute baby animals because there's a link between their physical characteristics and our species' instinct for parental care.
Don't be like me. Don't you be like me.
So even though Aloy was more grown up, we still think of her as a baby just because of that. Now, I don't know per se if this was intentional in the game, but if it was, damn, the people at Guerrilla Games really know their psychology. So by this point in the game, we already have a connection with Aloy.
Stay away, no mother!
And if you're right in the head, you sort of root for her during her rocky training montage when she wants to be the best she can be for the trial called the Proving.
Whatever it takes. I'll win the Proving.
I see. We'd best get started then. Your training will be hard, and it'll take years.
Start training? Yes. Follow.
Now, from my point of view, between the amazing intro with the Robosaur strutting and becoming emotionally invested in Aloy, the devs stuck the landing perfectly with immersing us into the world of Brave. When it comes to just exploring the world and interacting with it separately from the story, Horizon Zero Dawn's gameplay is awesome from my point of view. It kept me hooked and invested into its open world for hours on end, even though no narrative thread was being unraveled at the time. The reason behind this is simple. The game is wicked fun, but as simple as it may sound, the moving parts that make the entire game fun aren't basic at all. The team took a very long time coming up with the ideas and implementing them in how you interact with the world. How you fight with enemies, how you run, climb or whatever, and developing these mechanics wasn't done by a snap of the fingers. The game was in development for 6 years at Guerrilla Games, and the end result is more than commendable because this game wasn't their Witcher 3 or their 700th WoW expansion. This was their first crack at something so radically different from their previous games, and for what concerns me, they knocked it out of the park. With that in mind, I think the climbing feels awesome, the animations are top-notch, the rappel down is very entertaining, the sliding mechanic is nice, even hiding in the vegetation as a silent hunter is also well done. But my favorite part of the gameplay is the monster hunting. I mean, the enemies aren't one huge hitbox that take the same amount of damage no matter if you stub their toe or hit them in the face with an arrow, but the ingenuity behind the combat comes from the fact that enemies have weak spots. Thus, every encounter turns into a little mini-game where you scan for weaknesses and then you give it your best approach. The combat was so good that Aloy even made a surprise appearance in a renowned series like Monster Hunter, known for being one of the best games for killing off huge-ass monsters. At the same time, I mean, sure, there's a lot of room for improvement in all of these departments. For example, in the second game, I see the climbing being less reliant on yellow painted objects and more streamlined like in Breath of the Wild. Also, the descent mechanic needs some updates so I won't get stuck like this anymore. And I bet they're gonna improve the combat as well, and it's gonna be a surprise to all of us. Who knows, maybe it will be more Diablo-like and you're gonna find separate pieces of armor with levels in the second one. So it could be so similar in mechanics to Assassin's Creed that there will be hordes of memes on the internet of Horizon's Creed or whatever smart-ass name they're gonna come up with.
Available November 17th.
All in all, I'm happy that a game like this exists because it can make me play it for large amounts of time just having fun and not needing some story to be told to me just to keep it interesting while tolerating the gameplay. And speaking about fun, the game doesn't have a lot of Uncharted-style set pieces where things go boom and buildings fall into other buildings, but how awesome was that arena fight, right? I mean, holy cow, pun intended, I felt like a kid again. She was all attack of the clones and whooped that ball's ass, then the bad guy had the upper hand with the land squids and there was this explosion, but it turns out that it was Silent that came to rescue her and they escaped.
That was totally wicked!
Now, the world of Horizon Zero Dawn is gorgeous, even 3 years after release. Just look at these graphics, Jesus Christ. But like with all games,
You mustn't judge a book by its cover.
because there's more to it than the size of the world and how it looks. In my book, A Great World from a Video Game needs to have a story to tell. And oh boy, do we have one worth telling here.
The world of the old ones. What secrets lie buried beneath their crumbling ruins?
What I love most about it is that the writers took their sweet time introducing us to it, and I was also amazed by how much substance there was with every new piece of the puzzle. Right from the beginning, we hear about the Nora tribe, then our image of them slowly turns from a fuzzy one into a more clear and tangible one. This occurs through the discovery we make during our exploration of their village. We see their customs, how they have fun for example, displays of their traditions and religion, and later on through the concept of the proving, which is just a primitive rite of passage. All of these give us a concise image of the Nora tribe and add to the credibility of the world of Horizon Zero Dawn. And among all of these, one in particular made a huge impression on me. It's this scene right here where Baba Yaga or whatever is preaching to the children the story of their religion.
In the beginning, all life came from All Mother. People, machines, and beasts, all were her children. They lived alongside each other in the comfort of her wild embrace.
So now you're beginning to understand why their beliefs are so important to them. Specifically the meaning behind All Mother and how it all ties into Aloy being shunned as a child for being motherless. It makes total sense. Because if your highest form of divinity is a birth giver, how could the concept of one without a mother be anything less than heresy?
Stop this at once!
What have you done?
I've blessed the naming of a child.
Stubborn woman, you call that curse a child?
If they somehow would embrace such a person, the foundation upon which their entire religion is built would start to crack. So of course in their narrow vision it's all like,
That does not compute. Computer will return after deciding your punishment.
I thought this whole thing was amazingly put together because the deeper meaning behind it is more or less hidden in plain sight. And only when you truly pay attention to everything, you start to see the depth of Horizon Zero Dawn's world. But this is just half of the story from that scene.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
At one point in my life, I was wondering why we as a species are so enraptured by a good story. After a bit of research, it turns out that the answer is quite simple. Stories give context to everything. Through them, we make sense of the world around us. And as you all know, we are fed tons and tons of stories from the earliest stages of our lives, mostly through religion, cartoons, or kids' shows. Their impact on the mind of a child isn't anything less than extraordinary when you think about it, because it actually implements notions like morality, and it also gives shape to some of our desires for the rest of our lives.
Ooga, ooga, ooga.
Now, I can't speak for everyone, but my generation was kind of brainwashed by Disney with finding true love, marrying the princess, living happily ever after, all that jazz. But I can vouch that it works. So because of Disney, that's why I always had long and meaningful relationships. Now, I'm not saying that this is right or wrong, but I do find it funny that in contrast to old Disney movies, 5-year-olds now are growing up with this.
I ain't really mean that, yeah. Won't leave me alone. She say I treated her wrong. See, I don't believe it at all. After I get it, I reinvest. After I get it, I reinvest.
Yes, Daddy.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
So you see why I had to explain all of that, because now you understand the depth of the developer's knowledge that went into making that small but ingenious scene where religion was being instilled into the minds of the little ones. And it might not be that wow to some of you, but for me it was really important because it got me so much more immersed into that world. Another thing that sucker punched me were the cauldrons, because I never expected something like that. I mean, yeah, sure, in hindsight, the cave from the beginning could have been taken as a foreshadowing, but when I entered that first cauldron and saw machines straight out of the Matrix, I wasn't just impressed, I was left awestruck by the ingenuity of it all. When you think about it, it's really smart how it catches you off guard like that. And of course that after prancing through the fields of the Sound of Music with sticks and stones and then seeing mind-blowing scenes like this, you're left a bit bewildered like,
stop! Let me out! Let me out!
It's pretty clear that the world of Horizon Zero Dawn has much to tell, and I love how it didn't let up and then it continued to amaze me throughout the game, especially because it intertwines so beautifully with the story. The first time I played the game, the story got me so hooked I couldn't put the controller down. It was so original and complex, and at every turn I felt like I needed to know more. I applauded the fact that they didn't settle for the usual dumbed-down cliche of, oh look, there's bad guy, go kill him, but how in their narrative intricacies they took somewhat of a risk fleshing out the story as they did, because I don't really think every kid or dumbass would understand it all. Now, I'm not gonna go into it and explain every little detail because that would be redundant, but I am, however, going to say how much I love its narrative evolution from small and constrained to huge and sensational, because it goes something like this. First you have the mystery surrounding Aloy's mom and how that fits into her being an outcast, then you're exposed to the bigger world and all of a sudden the tribal life wasn't everything in that world, then you find out about Hades, which was an evil AI that wasn't supposed to be an AI but it still wants to destroy the world, then you hear about Project Zero Dawn and how the apocalypse was made by the Coca-Cola Corporation and why robots look like dinosaurs, and I hope Tesla turns them into personal mounts one day because riding on the streets on the back of a robot cheetah would be awesome, and by that point you're already like,
dude, this is awesome.
Now, except for the story itself, there's something else I love about it even more. You know when the mystery is so awesome that sometimes it's dangerous to reveal the reason behind it because it couldn't match the mystery? Take the movie Bird Box, for example, where, in my opinion, not everything needed to be explained because it would have been so much cooler to remain enraptured in the mystery. Opposite that, a good example is The Walking Dead that doesn't officially reveal the reason about how zombies came to be. So in my opinion, Horizon places itself in the best of both worlds because the answer was way cooler than the question. And I swear if this game had been made into a movie, it would have been one of the greatest sci-fi movies ever created.
There. I said it. Do with me what you will.
For me, Horizon Zero Dawn represents a wondrous journey, one worth undertaking by anyone who wants to be enraptured in an amazing story with worthy gameplay, and given what I said about this title, my hopes for the next Horizon game are high indeed, and I cannot wait to experience it when it comes out on the PlayStation 5.
Anyway, that's all I've got for now, Gaia. Time to tuck in.
I wish you a pleasant sleep, Elizabeth.
Thank you. I'll catch you tomorrow.